Welcome friends to a video I have actually been trying to put together for you guys for quite some time now. The Boss IR2 has finally landed at Chill Guitar Towers, and I've been having a ruddy good play around with it, testing its ins and outs. But the reason that I've been trying to do this video for a while and just haven't been able to is this little thing here has been sold out just everywhere, basically ever since it was announced. It's taken 2 months of having this thing on pre-order just to get it in my hands. So clearly there is huge demand for this pedal. I have spent a good time testing its ins and outs, building some rigs on it, discovering the limitations and the positives of it, and we're going to cover those now in this video. But I must say, I'm not fully understanding why this thing is so popular and so in demand currently. I am fortunate enough today to be demoing the Boss IR2 with this absolutely beautiful Ibanez TOD10 Tim Henson, which has been supplied to me by the good folks at Live Louder, the most metal independent guitar shop in the UK. If you guys like the look of this guitar or you're interested in rock or metal instruments, go and take a look at Live Louder's stock and prepare to drool. This is the entry-level product of Boss's IR range, which is pedal-based compact amplifier modelers. As you can see, it comes in that lovely Boss pedal form factor that we all know and love. One thing that I'm always impressed with Boss is no matter what the price tag is of the product they are releasing, it is always basically the best built thing in its class. When I reviewed the Boss GX100 on this channel, I was just staggered at how absolutely tank-like that thing was for a 450 quid modelling product. And this £180 compact pedal modeler is built like an absolute brick shithouse. So what is this thing actually capable of? Well, in this small pedal form factor, you get a choice of 11 modelled amplifiers. It has an effects loop built into it. It has USB connectivity, so you can load in your own impulse responses. We're going to talk about that some more in a minute. It also has a headphone out, which is brilliant because if you have a 9-volt battery, you can actually power this thing. So you could take this with you wherever you go, on holiday, on tour, just stick it in your gig bag, stick a 9-volt battery in it, plug some headphones in, and you've got your sound in your ear, no power required. All 11 of the amp models in this thing have 2 channels as well. So they have a clean channel and a driven channel, and this has an input for an external foot switch. So potentially you could have your channel 1 and channel 2 switching done externally if you already have a pedal board built or something like that. So that's a pretty cool option. Other than that, the foot switch on the pedal unit itself acts as a channel 1, channel 2 switcher. You have basic 3-band EQ, gain and level for adjusting your amplifier sounds. This pedal does have 3 different built-in reverbs. It has just a studio reverb, a hall reverb, and a plate reverb. I've got to be totally honest with you guys, they all sound exactly the same to me, and I've cranked them right up. All of my clean playing you're hearing on this video has the reverb set to max, and it's either on the hall or the plate setting. It's a very, very subtle reverb effect. I actually think they've put reverb in this pedal just to give you the option of kind of taking the dryness off the sound. Like if you are playing through headphones, it's not just a totally flat DI sounding guitar. It really isn't like a proper reverb, and none of the parameters on it are adjustable apart from picking which type you want. This pedal can also act as an audio interface, which is brilliant. So you can use this to record into an iOS device or any kind of laptop or anything like that. So potentially you could record demo stuff with this if you're traveling or if you're on holiday. Another cool option for a really, really small unit like this. Now, does this thing actually sound any good? I hear you cry at me. Well, yes and no. I've reviewed a couple of other of the current Boss modelling range. I've reviewed the GX100, I've reviewed the Boss Pocket GT, and I must say that this thing sounds exactly like it's made from the DNA of those other products. So if you don't like the kind of Boss modelled sound out of the current range of products, I don't think you're going to like this because it clearly uses the same modelling technology. Now, to start with, the clean stuff on this is lovely. That Fender Twin amp model is really quite close to the real thing, actually. And having the two channels on it means you can have a backed off clean sound and then you can have a slightly driven edge of breakup sound all in the one amp model. So that's really cool. This pedal can, of course, take drive pedals, compressors, noise gates. It has an effects loop, which is awesome. But out of the box, the high gain stuff in here is a selection of, I gravitated towards the Soldano model, the Rectifier model, and Boss's own modded amp model, which I really liked in the GX100, and I'm glad it's here too, because it's one of the better sounding Boss own brand amp models. But look, bottom line, the high gain stuff is okay. It's a little bit fizzy, boxy sounding with the factory impulse responses in this thing. If you're going to be playing high gain through this stuff, I would really encourage you to load in your own impulse responses. You can hear a couple of back-to-back comparisons here with the factory impulse response on some of these high gain models, and then I've loaded in my own impulse response, and I think it just sounds loads better. I don't really think that this pedal is capable of a fully saturated, chuggy, modern metal sound without adding some other stuff. You are going to need to add a drive pedal, you're going to need to add a compressor maybe to get that fully saturated kind of modern, overdriven metal sound that I certainly like. My experience of loading my own impulse responses into this unit was a bit clunky. I had to, first of all, connect it to my computer, no problem. Then I had to download Boss's dedicated IR loader software. Had a nightmare, couldn't get it working, tried 2 or 3 different cables, USB-C cables, because it says in the user manual that certain cables won't work, which is fair enough, I guess. Still couldn't get the software to see the IR2 unit, so I went on Boss's software, downloaded the latest drivers, changed sockets on my computer a couple of times. I got there in the end, but you're probably going to have to fiddle around with it if you want to load your own impulse responses. Now, there is the option of switching off the built-in impulse response in this pedal, so you can just have the modelled amp sound. Now, that's a cool option because if you were to pair that with, say, this, which is a Harley Benton pedal-based power amp, you'd have these 2 pedals and you could drive a 4x12 and you'd have a perfectly serviceable guitar tone for rehearsals or something like that. So that's a pretty cool option. You can't, unfortunately, split the 2 outputs on this thing. So, for example, it would be great if you could have one of the outputs with a fully modelled sound, including the IR, and one with just the modelled amp, so you could drive a power amp and a guitar cabinet. But still, it's cool that that option is there, which sort of neatly brings us on to the perspective that I'm sort of making this video from, which is, I don't fully understand why this thing is just flying off the shelves like at a rate of knots, and why it's been so hard for me to get hold of one to do a video on it. Look, I fully acknowledge that I'm probably not the target buyer for this product. I am not a guitar player that enjoys or wants to build his own pedal board, and this is probably a product that's intended to sit on a pedal board, so you have an option of just using that for a driven sound, and with the effects loop you can still use all your effects and your drive pedals in it, and that's cool. So I fully acknowledge that, but even with that in consideration, if I had a pedal board and I wanted to add a small pedal that can do modeled amp sounds, that can have my custom impulse responses in it and can just give me a fully workable sound in a small package, I'm not totally understanding why you would spend 180 quid on this and not spend exactly the same amount of money on something like the Hot Tone Ampero Mini, which, although it is, you know, a tiny bit bigger, that's like a fully featured touchscreen modeling product with like 50 different amps in there, hundreds of different drive pedals, reverbs, delays, compressors, flanges. It even has a looper in there. Aside from the absence of an effects loop, which the Ampero Mini doesn't have, I look at this product at the price point it's at, I look at what else you could sort of get for the same money, and I'm just not fully understanding why you would pick this with only 11 amp models in it, like a very basic, straightforward, there's no user interface on this thing, it's just what you see is what you get with the controls, and that's totally fine. I guess what I'm trying to say is I don't see the value proposition, particularly in this pedal. Sounds wise is serviceable. The clean stuff is really nice. The high gain stuff, it needs some work. It will need some pedals. It will probably need your own impulse responses to get a proper nice high gain metal sound. So it does its job just fine, but I don't get why you would buy this over something like the Hot Tone Ampero Mini. Can you guys help me out with that? Is there an angle here that I'm not seeing? Is there something I'm just not taking into consideration? Do let me know in the comments, seriously, because I think this pedal's perfectly fine. It's quite a cool little practice tool, and like I said, I really could see myself using this as like a kind of travel practice thing. Stick a 9-volt battery in it, a set of headphones, and you're away, you know. But then having said that, I would just use the Hot Tone Ampero Mini and just plug it in somewhere. I wouldn't, you know, like every time I sort of think of myself using this pedal in a scenario, I just think, yeah, but I would just use something like the Pocket GT, or I would use the Hot Tone Ampero Mini, or there's always another product I just think that I would buy with my own money. So if you're a Boss IR2 owner and you have it in a setup, please, can you tell me what setup you have? Like maybe there's a use case I'm just not seeing. I'd be really interested to know how you guys are using this pedal. There must be loads of you out there watching this video because, like I said, this thing's like hen's teeth to try and get hold of at the moment. In conclusion, I don't get it, but maybe you guys can help me with that. If you enjoyed this video, please do hit the subscribe button. It really does help me and encourage me to keep working hard, producing high quality content for you guys. Equally, you can support me via the Buy Me a Coffee link in the description below. Thank you so much to anybody who has donated anything via that Buy Me a Coffee link. I'm so grateful for it. Until the next Chill review, do take care of yourselves, and I'll see you soon.